defining the common tradition. So I told you, you get people from three monotheistic religion, they see totally different thing, okay? The Jews, because that was the most ancient one, okay? You remember this by heart already, right? Yes. King David conquered the city, and the city that King David conquered was down under, behind the tree. You see there is a slope? Yes. Down under there. If you stand where they're standing, you can see the city of David on the slope and the only spring around. He conquered the city there, and he was not allowed to build the temple, because he was not, his hands were not clean from sins. And it was only King Solomon, 970, that built probably here the first temple. We have no evidence. We cannot make any archaeological digging here, because if we do, that will be the beginning of the Third World War. So we don't. However, even the Muslim call the holes underneath the Temple Mount, there are holes near the stairs that you see. It's called Solomon stables. But we don't know exactly how the first temple looked like, even though there is a very, very precise description in the Bible. So we know how it looked, but where exactly, And then 500 years it existed. It was destroyed by the Babylonians. They went to Babylon. And then the Persian took over Israel, and they told Nehemiah and Ezra, they brought them back. And they built the second temple, but the old people still remember the first temple. It was only 100 years after the exile. They were crying when they saw how the second temple looked comparing to Solomon temple. That temple survived for about 400 years, and about the year 30 something, King Herod was nominated at 40 BC. King Herod decided to renovate the second temple, and he built here a masterpiece. He made this big plateau. You see, all the trees are on one big plateau, so the plateau still remain with us. The retaining wall that created this plateau, we see the eastern wall. The western wall is just on that other side. You see the gray mosque, Al-Aqsa Mosque. Below it, it's the western wall, okay? One of the retaining wall of the temple. But that western wall is the one that is closest to the Holy of Holiest. We are on Mount of Olives. We think that the temple that Jesus saw looked more or less like that. The Holy of Holiest was here. It was in the center, but a bit more close to the western wall. So that's where the western wall is so holy for us. But most of the western wall is not exposed. Only a small part is exposed, okay? So in here, where we have the Dome of the Rock, we think that's a place where Abraham was about to sacrifice his son Isaac. The Muslims think it was the other son, and we think that that was the heart of the first temple and the second temple. People would climb up to the temple, and the first thing they saw was the royal basilica with all the money changer that make Jesus being so upset about the greediness. And the staircase going up to the temple is just behind them. Okay, you see the white stairs going up. There is a tree there, and there is a white staircase. We will go there tomorrow. It's hard to see that it's stairs, but you see a bush on that slope? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Up on the top, there are stairs. That's the end of this staircase, and we will go there tomorrow, okay? So that was the entrance to the temple. That temple, just like Jesus predicted, was destroyed at the year 70. But before that, let's go to the Christian story. So Jesus came here. He saw the city from Mount of Olives. What Ze'ev said, he also was crucified here. What are the other churches say? There is a debate between the Catholic and the Orthodox world who believe that it was in the city. You see there is a big gray dome. The very big gray dome in the city, just behind the Golden Dome on a straight line. That's the Church of the Holy Sepulchre that was built for the first time in the 4th century. In the Catholic and the Orthodox, there are 6 denominations that own this church. Catholic and Orthodox think that that's the place of the crucifixion and that the Golgotha Hill is inside the church. The Protestant think it was in the Garden Tomb. You see the trees, the far tree, that's the Garden Tomb, and Ze'ev said, we just came from the place where Ze'ev believed it happened, the crucifixion and the burying. And the tomb was found empty. Jesus appeared in different places in Israel. Oh, one more thing. Before the crucifixion, the Last Supper, there was a big church that was destroyed, but the belief is that it was on the hill. You see there is a tower and a gray dome. Just in front of that tower, there is the room of the Last Supper. And in the Crusader time, there was a very big church there. So the common tradition of the Catholic and the Orthodox was that Jesus was caught in Gethsemane, down at the bottom here, and he was taken to, he ran away from the Last Supper, after the Last Supper to Gethsemane, and he was taken from Gethsemane back to that area because the house of the high priest was there. And then he was crucified. There are different estimations where. And then he appeared in different places after the tomb was found empty, and he resurrected, and everyone agreed it was from Mount of Olives. He ascended to the sky. Where exactly on Mount Olives, different estimation. Okay, the place was destroyed, the temple was destroyed just like Jesus predicted at the year 70, and it was abandoned for many, many years. At the 4th century, the Christian convert the Roman Empire, and they built the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where we see the big domes. And in the 6th century, the Muslims took over, and they built the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque. The Dome of the Rock, do I have it here? No, I don't. Okay, I will bring tomorrow pictures of how the Dome of the Rock look today. Today it is controlled both by Today it's controlled both by Israeli police and army and the Islamic party of the Waqf. It's an Islamic organization that take care of the holy places. It's a very long story, and I promise 2 minutes, but when Israel took over this side of the city, because the border used to be just at the end of the old city. You see the brown building, that's the King David Hotel. In front of there, that was the border. In 67, Israel took over this area. We put an Israeli flag on the top of the Dome of the Rock, but that's the first thing we did. And the second thing we did, we took it off in a few minutes. The chief of arms said it's too much for the Muslim world to take. And we will talk about it more on the bus, okay? There are other groups waiting.
Thank you.
Yeah.